Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thank you so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Daily Racing Form handicapper Mike Beer and I will take a look at the 3 graded stakes races at Santa Anita on Saturday, including the DRF Bets race of the day, the Grade 1 American Oaks. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick will take a look at the early daily double at Aqueduct on Saturday. Jake K's play of the day, a Pick 6 play at Santa Anita. Craig Milkowski's TimeformUS Spotlight focuses on the new Timeform pace ratings available in DRF Formulator past performances. We've got Peter Thomas Fornatel with tournament talk, horse swatches, best bets, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our horse swatch segment. Mike Beer, Naira analyst, you have a horse that was very impressive for trainer Carlos Martin in New York.
Yeah, Come Dancing, a 3-year-old filly. This is a filly who, first of all, got an only 1 start as a 2-year-old. Very late last November at Aqueduct, and she was, I thought, a really impressive debut winner, overpowering arrival late and going clear with a 77 buyer. Unfortunately, something went very wrong after that. She wasn't seen again for over 13 months, and she returned on December 14th with this performance. And I really feel like Carlos Martin, he put the word out on this horse that she was going to be ready to run off of this layoff. She took all the money in this race. She went right to the front, and she just blasted this field through the stretch. She wins off by 6.5 at the end, Dan. 96 buyer speed figure in just her second career start and first start off of a long layoff. You know, we'll see if Carlos can keep this filly together and keep her healthy and sound and on the track, because if he can, she seems like she has a lot of potential and she could have a little bit of a future, I think.
Our horses to watch this week both have similar profiles. I like a horse that was a second-time starter and a maiden winner with an impressive buyer speed figure. That's Chad Brown's Backyard Heaven. And let's swing into the stretch of start number 2, a 1-mile race over a good track on December the 10th. Now, Backyard Heaven was 1-5 on the heels of a 92 buyer debut against a very fast runner from the Pletcher bar named Coppertown. Backyard Heaven, though, just eased off the pace, goes by in the stretch, wins by 5, pretty much ridden out, and the runner-up is 12 lengths clear of the third-place finisher. Backyard Heaven earned a 97 buyer speed figure. This horse is a son of Tisway out of a half to a couple of graded stakes winners, Astrology and Lunar Pal, and you have to think that this one is going to be stakes bound in the near future. He'll turn 4 on January the 1st, a $160,000 yearling. That's Backyard Heaven for the Ramseys and Chad Brown. 2 races, 92 buyer, 97 buyer. Let's get to some handicapping. The DRF Bets race of the day, the Grade 1 American Oaks. Let's take a look at the field for Saturday's DRF Bets race of the day, the Grade 1 American Oaks for 3-year-old fillies going 1.25 miles on the turf. Race number 7 at Santa Anita. You can access free Formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page on drf.com. And for expanded stakes previews where we go in depth on all of the horses in many of the major stakes races this weekend, please head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike, Chad Brown has 2 horses in this race, and the big name is New Money Honey, Breeders' Cup Juvenile filly turf winner last year, and in 2017 she started off with a bang.
Yeah, she's, you know, Chad's got 2 very strong contenders in this race that he's shipping out west. New Money Honey, I really feel like, you know, obviously she had a really good 2-year-old year on the turf, and her campaign this year has been a little bit spotty, but those 2 races at Belmont in the summer, both the Wonder Again and the Belmont Oaks Invitational, and we'll look at the Belmont Oaks Invitational right now, a Grade 1, importantly, I think, over this 1.25 mile distance. And I just like the way that she won this race, Dan. I like the trip that she got, first of all, forwardly placed, but tracking. She's going to take over in the stretch here, and she'll hold off a couple of closers, a couple of her stablemates in the Chad Brown bar, but she holds off both of them. I thought this was a really nice win for her. They tried to Alabama after this. I would have no problem giving her a pass for that race where she finished 5th. And then they went to Keeneland for the QE2 Cup. I don't have an excuse for that race. I thought she ran terrible last time, but her 2 races at Keeneland this year, I think they're both pretty dull. I'm hoping she just doesn't like that turf course. What I like most about her in this race, Dan, is I really feel like of the 4 main contenders in here, she's the only one who has any speed at all. I think she gets the right trip, gets forward in this race, and maybe she can take them a very long way.
The TimeformUS pace projector for this race has New Money Honey out there on the lead. You can access the pace projector on our Race of the Day video. That's the key, I think, that she's going to get the jump on many of these closers turning into the stretch. And you mentioned 1.25 miles is no sweat for her. And you can make the excuses, perhaps, for her most recent 2 starts. I mean, the Alabama was against the best 3-year-old fillies in the country. Right. She ran just fine in that race on a surface that is not her best. The Keeneland race, that was a bit of a disaster, but you mentioned she hasn't done a lot of running at Keeneland. I think she's the horse to beat. I'm going to try to beat her, however, with Rimska, her uncoupled stablemate. And Rimska began her season down at Gulfstream Park, and boy, she kicked home fast, and I thought maybe she'd be the one to propel Chad to the major races like the Belmont Oaks. She had some physical problems after that race. Chad took his time. She's come back now with a couple of starts. Most recently, what I thought was an excellent prep. Let's go back to the Winter Memory Stakes at Aqueduct, and you see her in the familiar teal silks. She didn't break very well, broke outward from a far outside post position, but just watch her kick. And this pace is not fast at all. These horses are really not coming back to her. I think this is all Rimska eating up the ground on the outside. She's now going to have to do it at 1.25 miles. And we've seen horses that rally at middle distances sometimes fail to sustain that rally at 1.25 miles. This horse has won at 1.125 miles in the past. I'm hoping there's enough hitting up front. I'll go with Rimska, hoping that she's the now horse from the Chad Brown barn in the American Oaks. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Picks segment focuses on the early daily double at Aqueduct, and Peter Thomas Fornatale has all the latest news and notes from the tournament world in his Tournament Talk segment. Let's go to those pieces right now.
Hi guys, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate, and this week I want to look at a couple of really well-bred runners in on Saturday at Aqueduct who I believe will improve off their most recent outings. Let's begin with the day's first race, a maiden special weight for 2-year-old fillies, and the focus here is Hale. Now, she was an even third on debut earlier this month at Aqueduct, and if you look at her connections, that's no surprise. Juddmonte Farm homebred, trained by Bill Mott, they really give these horses time to develop, as evidenced by the fact that Hale's not debuting until late in the year, and they typically improve with experience. Hale is by Capit, classic sire who's really come alive late in the year with his 2-year-olds as the distances have gotten longer. And she's a half-sister to Champion Close Catches, of course, a multiple Grade 1 winner at route distances, a half-sister as well to Lockdown, multiple Grade 1 place this year routing. I believe she's going to move forward going into her 4-year-old year. Stretching out to 1 mile here, and with the experience under her belt, I do believe Hale will take a step forward in this her next outing. Now let's take a quick look at the second race. It's a cleaning race for older horses going 6 furlongs on the dirt. And down toward the inside there, you'll see the well-bred Finnegan, who of course is out of Untouched Talent, getting back on dirt and taking a class drop as he makes his first start since June. You're watching Finnegan's most recent win on the synthetic track at Turfway Park earlier this year. Most of his starts have come on turf. He hasn't run on dirt since his debut in April 2015, but he was a very good second then to Outwork, who went on to be a Grade 1 winner as a 3-year-old. So Finnegan has run well on dirt, certainly bred for dirt speed that can be carried a distance, being by Unbridled Song and a half to the brilliant classic-placed Bodemeister, among others. I'm really what he does on this surface 2 years on. That's all for me this week on Out of the Gate. Now let's get you over to Peter Thomas Fornatale for some tournament talk.
Hi, everybody. Peter Thomas Fornatale back with you on Out of the Gate. Not in the Brooklyn bunker this week, but on a frozen lake in Maine. And it's about -5 outside today. I was thinking of taking Muggs, the handicapping Labrador, for a walk, and the blast of Arctic air clearly knocked that idea out of my head right away. So I sit here in the office working away on a preview of this weekend's tournament schedule on DRF Tournaments and talking to you for Out of the Gate. In addition to getting to a little bit of info about the tournaments we're going to be running this weekend, I wanted to put forth the idea that this is a great time of year for all horse players, especially contest players, to think about horse player specific New Year's resolutions. Now, sometimes that can come in the form of goals, deciding to, for example, as a cash player, track every bet you make in 2018 and attempt to achieve that elusive plus ROI. For a contest player, maybe you want to come up with the idea of qualifying for a major Las Vegas tournament or one of the big Nairo or Santa Anita tournaments. Whatever your goal is for the year, really start focusing on that and make a plan to get there starting now. Sometimes a great thing to do at this time of year is to also add something into your handicapping process. Maybe you're somebody who's always thought about trying to make his or her own speed figures. It's a good time to maybe start a process like that, or working on coming up with trip notes for whichever circuit you follow. The magic of Formulator makes that so easy to do. It's a good time when the page on the calendar turns to come up with some ideas to make you a better horse player in 2018. Of course, we'll be here on Out of the Gate to help you in your journey. You can also reach out anytime to me at the DRF Players Podcast. We answer emails all year, podcast@drf.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter @LoomsBoldly if you have any questions. But it's a great time of the year for reflection in all walks of life, and for horse players, it's no different. Now, I mentioned about our special schedule at DRF Tournaments this weekend. We are running games Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. The featured games will be primarily Sunday and Monday. Big events including on January 1st, a one-day qualifier for the Pegasus World Cup Betting Championship, new format, money added, amazing deal, a $12,000 buy-in. It ain't cheap, so that's why a lot of people are trying to qualify their way in. But of that $12,000, none goes to the entry fee. It all acts as a live bankroll. Stronach Group adding money to this prize pool to make it a great deal for players. Check that out. Of course, we've also got on Sunday another Grade 1 qualifier for the World Championship of Handicapping. Speaking of great deals for players, $1 million, no takeout. Go to tournaments.drf.com to check out all those specifics, as well as a full reckoning of all the games happening at DRFT. I'm Peter Thomas Fornital, and Out of the Gate will be back right after this.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 3 Midnight Lute Stakes, going 6.5 furlongs at Santa Anita, carded as race number 8. For expanded stakes previews of many of the major stakes races all weekend long, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Micah Field of 9, the star-crossed masochistic, really is the key to this field. On his best day, he is blazing fast out of the gate. He's run some big buyer speed figures, but we haven't seen him in a long time. Is that the hole in Masochist's armor on Saturday?
Well, it's something I think that you want to at least concern yourself with. Obviously, I think if you just if you look at his PPs and think that he's going to show up with his best race off the layoff, then he's probably just going to win. He's a fast horse. He's run some very good races, and I guess it certainly doesn't hurt that he'll be making his first start for Bob Baffert in this spot if he does indeed run here. I would worry about the layoff with him. I'd also worry about the fact that, you know what, Dan, each of his last 3 races since he beat just 2 other horses in the Pat O'Brien last year, his last 3 races, I don't know about you, I don't think he's run particularly well in any of those 3 races, and to me, he's just not that trustworthy at a short price, Baffert or not.
TimeformUS disagrees with me on this one, but I think there's a chance that Masochistic and his next-door neighbor in the starting gate, American Eyes, might hook up early and often here and battle all the way through the turn. I think you agree that the pace should be a little bit faster than TimeformUS expects, and we both want horses with stalking ability from just off the pace at slightly better prices. You want Calculator.
Yeah, I wonder if Calculator is just a horse who is a little bit over the top right now and can't get back to his good races. The thing with Calculator is, though, if he does show up and run, one of his really good races, I think this is a field that he can upset, especially as, if you say, if American Eyes goes after Masochistic early and they race, and I do think they both have that similar running style, that this race could set up that way. I think Calculator can, if he pulls the right trip, and this is a horse who has to break from the gate. He's not a great gate horse, but if he gets away cleanly and can fall into the right trip, Dan, I think he can beat these two horses. I'm going to take the chance that he does it on Saturday.
Let's go back and watch Calculator's run in the Pat O'Brien Stakes 2 starts back. Calculator most recently ran in the Breeders' Cup Sprint where he was overmatched, and after making a very early move entering the turn, the gray Calculator has made the lead, and I wonder if he moved a little bit too soon. That's a pretty nice horse that's running him down in giant expectations. You see Silent Bird in fourth, just sort of one-paced, but Calculator on his best day does have that stalking gear and a pretty nice outside post position where perhaps if he does break better than usual, he can work out a trip. As for me, I like Silent Bird, the number one. That was a disappointing performance, but this is a horse that's just battled physical problems throughout his career. He's going to be 6 years old on New Year's Day, and this is only going to be start number 9. I'm not really a big fan of the blinkers going on for trainer Mark Glatt, but this horse has battled various foot issues. He's run some big races in the past, and I think maybe the blinkers on will at least infuse a little bit of speed, get him forward. Maybe he's sitting in the second flight inside of Calculator. I think if Silent Bird ever achieves his potential, it might be in a spot here, catching Masochistic off of the layoff. I'll take Silent Bird and Kent DeZormo in the Midnight Lute Stakes. From dirt to turf, from sprint to route, let's take a look at the Robert J. Frankel Stakes next. Here's the field for the Grade 3 Robert J. Frankel Stakes, going 1 1/8 on the turf at Santa Anita. It's the first of the 3 graded stakes races on the card. Carded is race number 4. We only have a field of 6, Mike, but it's a pretty intriguing group where you've got the 2 morning line favorites, the 4 Elise's World and the 1 Penn Jade shipping west for the powerful Chad Brown stable. And you've got a couple of horses in Southern California coming out of good efforts in the red carpet handicap. I want to talk about the 6 Responsible for Love, the 3 La Cine, the 2nd and 3rd place finishers in the red carpet, and we're going to take a look at the stretch run of the red carpet right now. Responsible for Love is in that very familiar Team Valor silks with the red cap, but keep an eye on La Cine in the silver. She's been buried behind horses from the middle of the turn into the stretch, and she finishes once she's clear.
Yeah, this is not an ideal trip, to say the least, for La Cine. She had trouble basically for the final 3/8 of a mile in this race. She's finally clear late. She's running. But just look at Responsible for Love here, Dan. I feel like when you watch her run, you sort of understand why they've really concentrated on longer races with her. She just has that one-geared running style. Even in the stretch here where she had the lead, there's just no acceleration for her, and she couldn't hold on at the end. I thought, all in all, a disappointing performance from her as the favorite. La Cine obviously would be an interesting horse to take out of that race considering her trip, but she's 2 for 22 on the turf in her career. She doesn't have that much speed. I don't know, Dan. I couldn't talk myself into her even though I wanted to.
That's my concern. La Cine just never wins. I believe she's been second 9 times in her life. She seems to find ways to lose. Responsible for Love was favored in that race off of a troubled trip in her prior start against Avenge. I think that was the Rodeo Drive where she was blocked down towards the inside. On her best day, I think she could be a little bit more forward. Remember that she was kind of a speedball early in her career in North America. We like the Chad horses in here, and we're going to take a look at their most recent start. They were in against each other, and it was a kind of a tale of 2 trips there as well. Penn Jade, the winner, is on the outside. She's going to close down this field. Watch Elise's World in the teal silks. She gets ridden right into a box. She steadies, and after that, she really lost all chance.
Yeah, it's not really that difficult, I don't think, to watch this race and just think, well, when these 2 horses run back, I'll take Elise's World. She had an awful lot of trouble in the stretch. It cost her. You can see she's going to get clear down towards the inside here, and it's not like there's any kind of big finish from her, but it's a way too late for her to really do anything. I understand taking the position that Elise's World is just the horse that you want out of that race, and if you reverse the trip, she would have won, Penn Jade would have lost. I just have trouble looking at the race that way because at the end of the day, Alicia's World is Alicia's World. I've seen enough of her. I do think she's improved a little bit this year for Chad Brown, but to me, she is just not that good. And I've seen plenty of races from Alicia's World where she did get clear in the stretch, where she had a chance to win, and she just doesn't kick that hard. Dan, I don't think she's that good in here. I think that Penjade will be a better price than her in this race, and I think Penjade just has a chance to come right back and win again.
I think you really said a mouthful. Alicia's World, I've tried to make her a good horse throughout her career. It's just been a long time between drinks, and you can only get hit over the head so many times. Maybe this is the right spot, but if you just look at the running lines, Penjade has those ones. She's won 4 out of her last 5. All of those wins have come in less than a length. She knows where the wire is, and she wants to win. It's now up to Ortiz to get a little bit of a trip and to get close, while perhaps saving valuable ground going into the first turn. Like Mike, I prefer the number 1 Penjade over Alicia's World in the Robert J. Frankel Stakes. JK's play of the day, again, chock full of good races at Santa Anita on Saturday. He's going to take a peek at the pick 6, and then Craig Milkowski's TimeformUS Spotlight will focus on the TimeformUS pace ratings, a new and exciting addition to DRF Formulator. Let's go to those segments.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day, the final one of 2017. We're going to go out with a bang playing the pick 6 at Santa Anita on Saturday, starting in race 4, the grade 3 Robert J. Frankel. We've talked about it on the podcast. We've talked about it on this show as well. Chad Brown shipping out west, East Coast horses in general, especially Chad shipping out west to run on the turf. You got to pay attention there. I'm going to use 2 horses who are coming out of the same race. We'll take a look at their replay from the last race. Alicia's World and Penjade. If you take a look here, you'll see that Alicia's World is stuck in behind. Penjade's in the clear. Penjade goes on with it. Alicia's World runs into a little bit of trouble, has to stand up, stuck behind a wall of horses, eventually gets through, but just a little bit too late. I think both of those horses off of class, off of the trip for Alicia's World, should be tough in here, and I don't think you'll need anyone else. Those are the only 2 that I'll use in the pick 6 to get started, the 1 and the 4. Going on to the second leg, it's a 30 claimer, tough horses to trust here, but there's one that I'm really interested in, and that's the 3-horse Charlie Cowden. We've talked about it before. The inside is not where you want to be at Los Alamitos. And last start in a maiden 30 back December 17th, Charlie Cowden was buried down on the inside, making his move on the turn. I'm going to expect that horse to improve here. TimeformUS has the last figure as an 83, which is the best in this field. And if you can expect them to improve a little bit off of that kind of what you would call a poor trip, being on the wrong part of the racetrack, I think that this horse could appreciate getting back to Santa Anita with another shot at a better trip. So I'm going to single that horse in there, the 3, Charlie Cowden. Going on to the 6th race, I'm going to spread a little bit here. I'm going to use the 5, Bo Macharis, and then I'm going to use Dawnworth for Peter Miller. It's the second time Peter Miller. Irad Ortiz is out in California riding some of these Chad Brown horses. He'll get the mount there. And then Sheer Flattery, which was a horse that was on the Derby Trail for a little small moment and is back with us now, going in the right direction. Has run second twice. I think that those 3 horses, the 5, the 8, and the 10, should allow you to get through this allowance race, leading you right into the Grade 1 American Oaks, where I'm going to stick with the same plan here and using 2 Chad horses. Rimska, we'll take a look at her last replay in New Money Honey. If you look at Rimska's last race, closing into slow fractions, circling wide, you see her right there out in about the 6th path, and she comes flying home. And we've talked about it last week. When you look at those TimeformUS PPs and you see horses that are coming from far back, closing into those blue-coated fractions, those are turf horses and turf trips that I love to bet next time out. And she ends up winning this one, running away. I think she'll be extremely tough here. New Money Honey has won at this distance of 1.25 miles. She should be forwardly placed. Had a little bit of a dirt experiment in the Alabama. Ran well enough in the QE2 after a long campaign. Gets a little bit of a break. Shows up out on the West Coast with what should be a little bit of a class edge. I don't see why you would need anyone outside of the 2 Chads here. I'm going to single Masochistic in the Midnight Lute, grade 3, 6.5. Masochistic obviously has been a talented horse for some time, been the center of some controversy at times, but now is in the Bob Baffert barn. And I would expect this horse to really improve and kind of show his best form with Baffert, who obviously is probably the best dirt trainer in the world, if not ever. And I think that Masochistic should be tough in here, going 6.5 off of a break with a favorable pace setup according to the TimeformUS pace projector. And then going on to the last, I'm going to spread here, hope to be alive in this spot. I'm going to use the 3, the 4, the 7, the 10, and the 12. No strong opinions. I'm just going to use horses that I think will give us a good shot. Mike Pipey, obviously, is always dangerous with the 3-horse. Richie Baltus is tough as well. And then Lewis Vale on the outside, coming back from the East Coast for David Jacobson, should be tough as well. Spread as much as you can in this spot, but these are the 5 that I need. Good luck, and we'll see you next year.
Hi, I'm Craig Mulkowski at TimeformUS for this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Today I'm going to talk about the inclusion of TimeformUS beats and speed figures into the DRF formulator product, something I'm very excited about. I like to use both products for different reasons, and having them all in one place in formulator can save me some time and hopefully you as well. Plus, I think it's a really good addition as far as quality of handicapping. So let's take a look at it. And the first thing I want to do is show you how to turn it on so you can see the pace figures. I'm using a desktop version on my laptop. There's different versions of formulator out there, but they're all pretty simple. And all you got to do is go to the part where it says filters, which I've highlighted here. Go to the view part and make sure the TimeformUS pace figure line is checked. Press save and you should have them. And you will see what we're going to see in the horses I talk coming up, where you get a pace figure line for each race for every horse. Turt, Durf, doesn't matter. They're all there. As long as it's a race that was timed, then it is not at some crazy distance. It's not normally run. You're going to get pace figures for the calls, for every call. I'm going to look at all the winners from the stakes races on Santa Anita, not for any particular reason, just they were the first horses that came to mind, and I know they all show some of the features. The first one was Giant Expectations, who was an upset winner of the Grade 2 San Antonio. He did it going wire to wire. And the first thing you'll notice about him is a lot of the pace figures are in slow pace. They're in blue, indicating that the pace was slow. What you see is the pace figures for the race are on the left-hand side underneath the times. For example, in his latest race, they went 22.94 for the first quarter, and that equated to a 117 TimeformUS pace figure. To the right, you actually get what the horse ran to that call. In this case, Giant Expectations was 11 lengths off the lead, and he got an 85. And the one thing to notice, it's a really unlucky horse. You're not going to see these kind of PPs very often. There's just nothing but blue fractions, which we only show the blue and the red fractions for about 30% of the races, I believe. And that's both of them combined. So for this horse to keep getting blue after blue for a horse who's a bit of a closer was surprising. What was more surprising was how on Malibu Day on Tuesday, he actually took the lead out of the gate and went wire to wire, setting a really slow pace. So he did finally catch a break and paid a big price. But, you know, the thing to see is it's kind of an in-race bias where you see the pace was slow, so horses coming from off the back are going to have a tougher time. And horses on the lead should have an advantage in those kind of races. The next horse we're going to look at is Bowie's Hero. He won the Grade 2 Mathis Brothers Mile a little later on the card. And something I neglected to mention with the previous horse, Giant Expectations, is the TimeformUS pace early and TimeformUS early and late speed ratings. I have them highlighted on Bowie's Hero in yellow. You can see the 76 and the 109. So he's definitely kind of more of a closer horse. You can see by the higher late pace rating. That does depend on surface and distance. There's some more available on our site. These have been available in DRF printed PPs for a while and classic PDF PPs, but they're now making their way to formulator. And keep in mind, these are an overall rating based on more than just one race. They're based on the best of the last 5, not just one best, but it could be multiple races, but not all of them of the last 5. And what you see with Bowie's Hero here is he is definitely a horse who has done best in the past when he gets a fast pace. I've kind of highlighted those. They're the fractions in red all the way down at the bottom when he won the Del Mar Juvenile Turf race. He came back later, won the Singletary Stakes. In all of those races, he was well off the pace. The fractions were red. They were hot, and it set up nicely for him. And you'll see that's the only time he had won before Saturday when he got a fast pace. Now, he did show a new dimension on Saturday. The runner-up set a slow pace. Bowie's Hero was able to stay a little bit closer, quite a bit closer than he normally does. It was a good ride by jockey Kent to keep up close, and he was able to still finish very strong and win. So it'll actually be the first time he did not win that he didn't need red fractions to win a race. But he is a horse who's improving. He showed some more speed. But the key here is just note the race shape. If it sets up in the reds, you're going to like closers. They should run the best, and you're looking for horses that maybe ran good against the grain of the pace. The next horse we're going to look at is Unique Bella, who won the name is escaping me, the Grade 1 7 furlong race for fillies, 3-year-old fillies. And she shows a little bit of both. You can see way back when she broke her maiden. She actually didn't, before she broke her maiden, her first career loss, her first race was a loss. And you could see right away she was a horse that had some talent. The pace was really slow that day, as you'll note by the blue fraction. She ran a 75, the race was a 75 and an 89. She was well off of that. She still closed to be second, made up some ground despite the horses up front having a big advantage. She got second, and we all know where she went from there. She went on a tear where she was winning quite a few races before she got injured while pointing toward the Kentucky Oaks. She didn't make the Oaks, and she had some time off. She came back in October, and I think her 2 return races kind of show the power of what these figures can do. Her first race back, she was in a race where she really overmatched the field, the Grade 3 LA woman at Santa Anita, and the pace was slow, but she was able to lay off of it, which showed she is a horse who can rate a bit. She didn't need to be up front despite the fact they were going slow. That only 97, she ran an 88 to that point. And she was still able to win easy, as was expected. But then she jumped right in her second race back in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. And it was a pretty tough trip. She was dueling on the lead. The fractions were not, they're red. And I mean, you can see by the numbers, it was a hot pace. We had a 1:43 opening quarter, and the final time figure for the race was only a 1:14. I'm just now learning about the pace ace. I know a little bit about it, but I kind of highlighted here because it also said that race, the whole flow of the race favored closer. So it makes it kind of clear everything was against her that day. She battled for a while before giving up, finished 7th, beaten 7th lengths. But I think the fraction show was a much better effort. There was also some talk of the rail not being so good on Breeders' Cup Day that day. I happen to agree with that. She probably just had a really tough trip, and she came back, and once again in this race, she rated really nicely. The La Brea, the name just came to me, rated really nicely in the La Brea, which she had proven she could do 2 races back. Sat a bit off the pace, closed into it. It wasn't a crazy fast or crazy slow pace, and she won pretty easily as a 6-5 favorite and showed she's back in top form and probably going to be a horse to deal with all year long for the older fillies and mares. The last horse I want to look at is City of Light from the Malibu. This horse was a bit of a surprise to some, but he actually had quite a bit going for him if you looked at him from a pace figures perspective. His last running line, he was beaten by Dabster in the race, but I think it was pretty clear he was a better horse than Dabster that day. You can see the red fractions, they're clear as day. He was right up on the lead. And one thing I do look for in those is the pace was contested. I'm a little less likely to give an excuse for a horse who's up on the lead and a fast pace if they're doing it by themselves. Horses running clear tend to have an advantage, even if they're going a little bit too fast. But this horse dueled. He put away his competition. You see he opened up by 2 lengths only to get run down late. But he just looked like a very strong horse coming into the Malibu. And one other thing to note with him is the TimeformUS early speed rating, his 117, was well clear of everybody else in the field. The next highest was a 101. So it looked like despite drawing the inside rail, he wasn't going to have too much trouble making the lead, and that's exactly what he did, and he was able to win pretty easily. If you want to learn some more about TimeformUS speed figures and formulator, there are a couple pieces out there. What I did is just highlighted, use the search button. You click on that from the home page, type in TimeformUS formulator, press submit. And then when you go to the next page, the first 2 of the first 3 articles that pop up are recent additions. One talks about the figures in Formulator, and then there's a Q&A with myself where some little more in detail questions are asked about the figures. So hopefully I covered most of that there. And if that doesn't work for you, if you have any questions that I haven't covered or more that you want to see, you can always come to Twitter and ask me there. I'm always happy to answer questions. My handle there is @TimeformUSFig. So look forward to hearing from you and answering any questions that you might have or just discussing racing anytime. That's it for Timeform US today for Out of the Gate. Let's send it back to Dan in the studio.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Time for our Best Bet segment. Our friend and colleague Matt Bernier recorded a Best Bet segment that he doesn't want you to miss. Let's go to that right now.
Plenty of good action Saturday afternoon, coast to coast. You've got stakes races on turf, stakes races on dirt, graded variety, non-graded, whatever it may be. For my best bet, I'll go down to Gulfstream Park, the Tropical Park Derby, the 3-year-old boys, mile and 16th on the turf. I kind of feel like Small Bear just might be the right horse at the right time. He's slowly coming along. He's already a stakes-placed horse on dirt, and most recently he was a stakes winner up at Aqueduct. This was him in the Gio Ponte. And I got to be honest with you, coming off the far turn, I thought he'd be lucky to get third, let alone win the race. I just love the way that he finished. The mile and 16th right in his wheelhouse. I actually think a little bit of additional distance would be beneficial, but I love the finish that he shows in this spot. He comes home. He has the highest last out buyer in the field with a 91. The Timeform US ratings, they're right in the ballpark. I think Jeremiah Engelhardt doesn't usually ship out of town, but when he does, there's really a reason for it. I think Small Bear, there's plenty of speed in this race to set him up. Don't discount this horse. I'm not sure what we're going to get come post time simply because I think it's a pretty wide open race. You've got all the big names in here, but I don't think you have any superstars. Maybe Small Bear is just that horse that's slowly putting it all together. And maybe he's setting up for a big 4-year-old campaign. I'll go with Small Bear in the Tropical Park Derby.
Mike Beer, NYRA analyst, your best bet at the Big A, frigid weather expected.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Race number 5, though, is a starter allowance, sprinting 6.5 furlongs for some older horses. I'm going to give Holding Aces one chance in this race, based mostly off of his most recent start, which was at this level at Aqueduct. You can just see here, we'll throw the replay up there. A speed horse Holding Aces is, and he just totally blows the break in here. I mean, this race basically was over for him right at the start. He doesn't get anywhere near the lead. He's still last at the top of the stretch, and he'll try and race on here, but basically he lost any chance he had in this race at the start. I think he's found the easiest spot that he's been in, maybe since he won twice earlier this year at lower levels on Saturday. He is at this starter allowance 50 condition for the 4th straight time. He's lost the last 3 times in it, but I think he faced way better horses all 3 times. This is the spot for him. If he breaks, there's not that much other speed in this race. Trevor McCarthy picks up the mount. If he can get him out of the gate and get forward in this race, I think this is a field he can beat, and he's 6-1 on the morning line.
I'm going to go to Gulfstream Park, race number 7, one of the divisions of the Tropical Park Oaks for 3-year-old fillies, and I believe there might be a vulnerable favorite in here. Miss Sky Warrior is a talented and speedy horse, but she is a great unknown on turf. I think she's going to get bet off of her dirt form, and I have no idea if she can step on the sod. I'm going to go with the horse with a bit of upside, and that's the number 5, Momentiempo. This is the little half-sister to the very talented Grade 1 winning turf horse Time and Motion, and we're going to go back to her maiden victory at Aqueduct in November. This was her first start off of a 348-day layoff, and you see Eric Cancel try to get off the rail with her, and she's going to be bogged down in behind horses into the upper stretch. And again, remember, this is her first start off a very long layoff. The outside closers now have all of the momentum. Momentiempo, however, dives towards the inside and is really resolute. She's going to not only win this race, but she's going to be going away at the end. Momentiempo, very, very lightly raced for a top trainer in Jimmy Toner, and I think she's found the right field where this favorite, down towards the rail, Miss Sky Warrior, is a question mark on turf. Best yet, Momentiempo, 15-1 on the morning line, race number 7 at Gulfstream. That's the number 5, Momentiempo. You can follow all of the latest DRF TV offerings at DRF Video, and all of the daily racing form news and notes for the major races at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. That's it for this year on Out of the Gate. Thanks so much for watching. Happy New Year, and best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.